All right, I apologize. I'm still early, but I apparently set this for 3 in the morning and not 3 in the afternoon. So, um, we'll see what I end up doing this weekend. I might be kind of busy. So, I don't know. But, anyways, I'm going to read from my book again, The Greatest Storm, the story of Allison White and Stephen Blackman. And I am on chapter 11, Isis, the Temptress of the Sea. I might do afternoon readings on the weekends. I don't know. Just trying to find the best time to do these readings. Very seldom do people respond, but sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not so good. So hopefully I'm finding a nice young audience. If you listen to this and you know people that might like it, let me know. Anyways, it's my high seas adventure, which I love. This book I read online or on YouTube, so you can listen to that. And I read the whole book. It's about a boy trapped in a painting, and he tells his story 500 years later. So, I hope you guys are enjoying the content. It's not the type of content you get, I guess, from authors. But I watched a video about this guy. He said in the past 3 years he released like 12 books, and they all the covers look the same. And I want you guys to know you will never get a cover from me from one of my books that looks virtually identical to the last book. And I don't overproduce content. I'm not a content producer. I like to produce quality, and that's kind of my shtick. See, there's the third book. Each one of those is distinctly different. So that's kind of how it is. I don't know. I've thought about. I don't know if there's got to be a button in here. Anyways, doesn't matter. I'm gonna read from this book today, The Greatest Storm. And I've already read a couple of my most favorite chapters from the book, so you can go back and listen to them. But yeah, so I don't know. I hope to find the right audience someday. And if you enjoy, hello, baby cheap. Yeah, I hope to find the right audience someday that enjoys my readings. And then was I going to take a break and read some of my favorite short stories that I wrote? But today I'm going to read this from this book. Let's see. And so far, the book's about two lovers separated by an ocean. I read, The Men with the Long White Beards. That was one of my favorite chapters. Madness on the High Seas. The One That Got Away. My own personal story about how mermen ended up becoming into existence, which I rather enjoyed. I think I did a whole video where I talked about it, but I'm going to read that story someday. So, I don't know. Well, anyways, I'm going to read. I might as well get started because I don't know who's watching this, or if anyone goes back and listens to the chapters, but I'm on chapter 11, and you can check it out on my channel, and you can listen to the whole book. The only one is I'm not going to put this one online. Okay, I'm not going to read that one. It's they're all my favorite stories. All right. It's called Isis, the Temptress of the Sea. That's the chapter we're on. And the whole book switches back and forth between the two main characters, Allison and Stefan, chapter by chapter. Here we go. After Allison's rough night at sea, Stefan lay awake in his mind. He was wrestling for comfort, searching for something within his dream. He tried to move his legs and arms, but found it difficult to concentrate. Then he felt something snag and pull against his skin. The crab, It had returned. It was crawling all over him, as if desperately searching for something he possessed. His eyes fluttered. He felt a warm flush run through his entire body. Moments later, his eyes opened wide. The crab was becoming an annoyance, so he threw it aside and looked outside the cove. The beach was mystifying. There was a hazy white void of nothingness, like the black and white static from an old television set. The wind was spiraling in low and high pitches. It was ever present in this fabled land of constant swells and buckling echoes. It would pick up for a few feet before dropping, only to be lifted and carried away somewhere else further down the beach. Steve was asleep, snoring and content with his dreams of his own, so he strapped the conch-horn around his left shoulder, compelled to explore the beach alone. With nothing to do but wait for the sands of time to catch up, he stepped into the unknown with the lonely crab by his side and blindly navigated his way through a world of creamy white smoke and wild gusts of sporadic wind. Just a few paces in, he heard a noise. It sounded like a cryptic moan below the ever-changing pitch of the wind. The sound was very specific. It took him on a path, perhaps one of no return, he felt in some way. Stefan pressed on, determined to find those answers. The lonely crab constantly chattered. He looked at it with eyes of frustration, as if saying, "Stop making a fuss. Your fears are not welcome here." The crab receded to his shell and nestled in, and so he continued to follow the sound. Then he heard something tapping, so he changed course and headed toward this anomaly. He kept walking for some time until his feet were wet. All he had to do now was kneel down and use his hands to reach out and find his exact position. The mist cleared in front of him, a small, uneven patch, just enough to have a vague look. He used his hands to brace himself against a rock, and then he leaned in. It was a tree torn up from the roots, trapped against a large boulder that had sunken into the sea. What a strange thing to lure him to this place. He decided to push it away, allowing the tree to float on its own. As the tree disappeared into the distance, he heard a loud crash behind him. It must have been coming from the cliffs that sealed the island off at all points but one. There was a break in the fog on top of the cliffs, a murky secret overhead. Then he saw movement. It was alive, euphoric, a spiritual magic. The figure, void of any particular shape, then vanished as quickly as it appeared. He faced the sea as a layer of thick white smoke crept in. It poured down in a quiet frenzy. He felt lost and trapped in this vapor. Then he heard a whimper. It sounded like a creature stuck in a trap, struggling to break free. The wind pushed him towards the sound of this crying beast. The unknown just a few yards away formed a shape. It slowly moved tirelessly in his direction. He drew back. The unknown consumed all the soft spots in the mist until it reached out through the fog and touched his shoulder. It felt firm, strong enough if it wanted to be. There was a shifting movement in the air. He saw a majestic horse, perhaps the king of this beach and the keeper of this island. It had a long black mane flowing almost endlessly behind it. He stared directly into its glowing embers. The two shared a brief moment, and then the horse trotted off, vanishing into the fog. Something bright twinkled in the blowing mist. It sparkled, blinding him with its tarnished silvery hue. He looked on as a man of the past searched for the horse. He wore his attire, suggesting he rode upon it as a proud knight, when chivalry and honor were a common thing amongst men of his kind. His eyes remained mystified by this encounter until it all blended together, along with the golden yellow sands that blew across his face. It seemed something had requested his presence on the beach that morning and would not allow him to walk away until the two had an encounter. It was hard to make out, but he knew he was having another vision, something powerful, well beyond his comprehension. The vision then stepped forth until it became well known. An old woman cut through the fog, devouring it like a snake in rapture and final judgment. Her hair was dark and scraggly. It was a strong vision, one that commanded his attention. The voices spit in his face like an irritating whisper, and then it smashed against something hard. The sands all of a sudden fell to the ground upon his relief. The fog soon thereafter lifted, creating a bright haze of white heat. The crab returned. Stefan realized he was on a part of the beach he didn't recognize. Blackness dragged over the sand. The cliffs were higher here. The light flickered as a dark yellowish hue washed over everything, creating a soft, mellow complexion that consumed the tides. The importance of this phenomenon was of no concern. The crab, however, seemed to fear this experience, but was something else it noticed out there in the distant waves. Isis was strange in her ways. She used all her strength and agility, headed straight for his position on shore. Just a few more flaps of her back fin, and she would have him. More than just within her sights, she would have him at the command of a promise spoken with lips of true cunning deceit. The crab kept nipping and pinching at Stefan's feet, as if its quest was almost complete. Isis approached the shore, smiling at her little friend, satisfied with the demands it had met. She then snuck up behind Stefan and made a splash, but he didn't seem fazed as she'd hoped. She was used to the men on the island ignoring her charms, but she had her ways to lure them into her gaze. She batted her eyelashes, making sure the soft glimmer in them was seen. The color of her eyes was the same as the sea, temptingly beautiful and green. Not the peaceful green of a pasture, but the green eye of jealousy. One of many of her traits was beneath those beautiful eyes of hers, the ability to adapt and overcome. Like the color of her where am I? Blah. Though they were blue when she had control over the old men of the sea, they were green in the face of a true challenge for a temptress, because Stefan's eyes belonged to someone else. Many men have taken that bait with a quick jerk and a snap. Stefan moved like a man. He acted like one, too. Isis had made many a man who acted like him fall prey to her trap, thinking she was a treasure worth being had. She used all her best hooks, lines, and sinkers to lure him in. The bait at the end of this hook then leaned back in the sea. With charm and elegance, her eyes became bubbly. She giggled like a little schoolgirl, because to her, Stefan was the ultimate prize. For once in Isis's ill-begotten life, she acted like one of the many men she had lured away from dry land. Only this time she meant it, though she would never admit it, not even to herself. Stefan didn't have anything to say. She was ignored for what she was, a distraction like the lonely crab still nipping at his feet. He was aware she was there. He just didn't care, as if her promise and sultry, ruby red lips meant nothing to this wandering fool. She laid out a few more lines and some well-baited hooks, but nothing she could have said would have lured his gaze into hers. Isis then did something she had only done once in her ill-begotten life. She followed after a man. She became the angry beast, shouting and screaming that he hear her out, or at least look into those eyes she felt were the softest of soft in any man's heart. Stefan did not stray from his path. He had no reason to stop and listen to her vile, ugly tongue. That is, unless she had something important to say. She may not have had anything important to say, but she did have a trick flapping and crashing against the waves, the knowledge of what all men on the island seek. Though that was something she would never give up. She couldn't let him know the truth, but she would use this knowledge to her advantage and gain another thing she did not need, a man who rightfully belonged to another. Stefan walked on without knowing she would never give in to a man. The golden yellow sands were blinded by the shade of the moon. Isis withdrew her anger before laying out her best taunt yet. She looked at him with those lustrous eyes only a true temptress could possess. Stefan, hello over there. Yes, you. Why do you keep walking away from me? If you keep walking at that speed, you might miss out on something you didn't know could exist. Very well, ignore me and all that I offer, but at least know this. I know what you've been searching for. I know where she waits. Stefan finally heard her lips move with something of interest. He stopped and took in everything she had to offer. Isis had finally landed the catch of the day. Now all she had to do was reel him in and fast before he got away. Stefan looked over his shoulder into those temptingly beautiful eyes. You know where she waits? Isis smiled. She finally had her hook sunk into the back of his neck. I'm glad you looked because, well, yes, I do. First, however, you must do something for me. Stefan reacted as if she had asked for his soul. He scoffed, believing she still knew nothing about what he seeks. He was quick to react to keep her catch of the. She was quick to react to keep her catch of the day from slipping away. Wait, I do know where she is. I wouldn't lie, not to those eyes. What I ask of you might not even be so bad, so at least hear what I have to say. Then tell me her name, Stefan said with confidence as he looked at her through the corner of his eye in suspicion. I would, but I bet no name would suffice except for the name of the one you love. Besides, you don't even remember, do you? So what use would a name be you can't even recall? I bet if I gave you a name, it might as well be any in the book. Then maybe you do know where she is, Stefan responded, quite hopeful as he turned around with a gullible belief. I do. Promise, cross my heart, I know where she waits, and it won't cost a thing. Do you care to know, or shall I swim away, never to be seen by those lovely eyes ever again? What will it cost? He foolishly said as his lips trembled. Won't cost you a thing, but a small favor here and there from time to time that I might ask of you. First, however, I noticed you carry with a very special seashell shaped like a horn, strapped around your left shoulder. Yes, what about this? It belongs to me. There are plenty more just like this one littered on the beach. Take your pick. Yes, but that one in particular belongs to me. And I tell you what, you can hold on to that one for another favor I might ask of you later on. Now, do you wish to know where the love of your life waits, or shall I return to the sea? Please tell me, and then ask this favor of yours. I will tell you, but first you must promise me this. You will not get upset or do something you might regret when you hear what I have to say. That is a promise I can easily keep. You promised. Now cross your heart. Stefan crossed his heart and said, All right, tell me. She is on a deserted isle not unlike the one you are on, but it is very far from here. She waits there with another man who is perhaps more charming than the man I've come to know. On this beach today. Don't worry though, she does wait for you, and the man she waits with annoys her every chance he gets. You lie. Tell the truth, Stefan said as he took a step closer. I do not lie, not with my pretty eyes, for my eyes see everything as plain as day. Then tell me, where is this island? I shall swim to her at once. If she truly waits with another man, then I shall kindly ask him to step aside. Hold on to those foolish thoughts for now. The seas she resides in are almost impossible to paddle on in a boat, let alone for some piece of driftwood you might find washed upon shore. Then I shall find the strength and swim there anyways, even if it is with the last breath of air that I breathe. I don't doubt that you will, with those big arms of yours. I'm enticed. But trying to navigate these waters without the knowledge a sailor of the sea possesses? Well, I think you'd have better luck following a path that leads around in one great big circle. It doesn't matter. I shall risk everything to be with her for the rest of my days. Hear me out first, before you swim away and drown. I know of a way you can reach her without foolishly risking your life. You will get there much faster than on any vessel if you would just listen to me. Why would you help me? Because I too once loved someone only to watch as he swam straight into the arms of another woman. From these very shores, in fact, not far from where you stand. That is why I also caution you with a bit of advice. Once you find her, she may have already fallen in love with this other man and want nothing to do with you anymore. She would never, I know in my heart, but does she know in hers? Stefan lowered his head as Isis consoled his aching desire. It can be very, where am I? Sorry. It can be very lonely on an island with no one by your side, but an annoyance that offers you comfort. I know this all too well. The man I once loved swam away from my charms without so much as giving me a favorable glance. I'm sorry to hear that. You're a very beautiful woman. Any man would be a fool to give up someone as lovely as you, but I at least must try. I understand, believe me, I do. That is why I'll even take you straight to her, once you've shed your legs. Stefan was taken aback, but with a chance he was willing to take, he foolishly asked, "What do you mean, shed my legs?" Isis leaned in close, her smile snapped into place, along with her sultry ruby red lips, set on fire by her burning desires. That seashell you carry with you, the one that is shaped like a horn, it is called a conch horn, and it has a very special gift. It allows men the ability to shed their legs and grow a fin. Once you've blown on it, just once with those irresistible lips of yours, you'll have the ability to swim like me with ease in the sea. If there is a chance, and a small chance that it is, this is the only way you'll reach her. I would lose my legs, yes, but if you blow on it a second time, you will lose your fin and be given back your legs. However, once you do, you will never see me again. I can accept that. She is the only woman I will ever need. No offense. The man who threw you back, he truly is a fool to lose someone as honest and beautiful as you. I'm flattered you think so fondly of me. Because of that, know this, I do find you rather charming myself. If you don't find what you're looking for out there on that island, if she has found true love in the arms of another man, then maybe, perhaps, you would consider someone like me. That is quite the offer, but I assure you, she is all I will ever need. Isis looked at Stefan with eyes that softened in a tranquil luster. All right, but are you sure you won't even consider my proposal? The two of us would make quite the couple, I am sure, he said with confidence that he only had one true love on his mind. Perhaps you will change your mind after you see her, and once you realize it doesn't take any woman that long to decide, she can no longer wait for the one in her dreams. I am not worried, for I know deep in my heart she waits for me and me alone. Very well then, it's your choice. Now blow. Just put your two lips together like this and blow. I will take you straight to her afterwards. You promise? Cross my heart. With Isis's heart crossed, Stefan lifted the conch horn up and blew on it with all his might. Isis leaned in close to watch as the true test of her abilities as a temptress played out once again for her amusement. That's it. Lift up and blow with all your might. All your questions in life will soon be answered once you've given me something I need. Stefan blew with all his might all right, but nothing happened. The map was still tucked safely inside, thwarting any attempts he made, so he set it back down with the words Isis softly muttered under her breath racing through his mind. He wondered if she even knew where the love of his life waits. He wondered if this lonely creature lurking in the waters was after something more than she let on. Maybe, since it seemed the love of her life had been led astray, and she would never find true love, he was her only chance. He certainly knew what that was like. But the thought of the one he loves was far too strong a spell to be broken by this sweet and innocent, insignificant thing paddling around making a splash. She tried to persuade him, but there was a look in his eyes he kept before he ran into her that day. She noticed these eyes that stirred from hers. Still she tried with the same tired, old line she'd used many times to lure landlubbers offshore. Isis twirled her entire body and made another big splash. She then arched her back and used the charm in her eyes to lure him in, hiding the real intentions she had, but it would do her no good, you know. Stefan had already made up his mind. He saw it in her eyes. She desired him more than anything she ever desired, and it showed, her desperation, her wants, her fears, her longing needs. It showed, and there was nothing she could do about it. All her years of experience luring men from land, and there was nothing she could do about this one. So he turned to her. He turned to her and said something for all those who are willing to listen. Though I'm not the man for you, I assure you there is someone out there who waits. All you have to do is give it time. Isis was furious with his words. Her eyes turned blood red, boiling in the steam. It seemed there was nothing she could do but hope that someday true love would come her way. True love would never come her way, though, not with the temper she kept. She could have tried again, but the moon faded from the sun, blinding Stefan of all that she had left to offer. Her best kept trick yet, her looks. Now there was nothing left to keep him there. One promise after another was made. She even offered to retrieve the heart of the sea and bring it back to him. One promise after another she could not keep, even if she tried. For Stefan, she'd already vanished from view. With Isis far out to sea, he said his goodbyes to a true friend on the beach. Then, without looking back, he walked through the field of forgetfulness. He forgot everything all over again. He even forgot he had no name and the life he once led on the island, leaving behind the memory of how he resisted true temptation that day. Steve, alone on the beach, woke up, but with a newfound hope that he'd been given to him. He found that picture Stefan kept where he slept, along with the thought of his own, to wait on that beach for his one true love until it was ashore no more, and hope had been something he did not give up on, but truly had faded with the sands of all the time he had left on this earth. The end there. And then the end of that chapter, the next chapter is the tall tale of Adam Griffard. And that's got the longest tongue twister in the world in it on that chapter. It is, I don't know, like 7 pages long. But that's from that book there. I still don't know how things are going, but I'll try and get to another one this weekend, another chapter, but we'll see. But I'll definitely do another talk tomorrow sometime. At least about the books or whatever. Whoever tunes in, you can just ramble on about whatever you want. I don't know. Anything related to writing or poetry. But, yeah, The Greatest Storm, a true romantic comedy. And you can go back to the playlist. It's all on my channel, so you can catch up. And I'm at the halfway point now on the book. What did I say? Chapter 12 I'm on now. And then this book, too. You can listen to that whole book on my channel, actually, from start to finish. Both of them are on Kindle Reads. And that's, the Kindle version has all the art in that book. But, yeah, thanks for tuning in. Those of you who stayed and listened. And I'll be back tomorrow, probably around in the afternoon sometime. Okay. Thanks for listening.